Congratulations on entering your fourth year. You guys have come so far and you're all going to be great. So, as you probably know, I just graduated 2018 and I'm currently working on the oncology unit at Sick Kids Hospital here in Toronto. That's why I couldn't be with you guys in Ottawa today. So I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about what my experience was throughout consolidation, how I studied for the NCLEX, and how I came to be working at Sick Kids where I'm working right now. So let's get started. So first off, in consolidation, I was not really super excited about my placement, and I know some of you are probably also disappointed about your placements, but don't be too concerned about it because it's not set in stone. Where you consolidate is not necessarily where you start working as a nurse. So just don't be too stressed about it and try to take every opportunity that you have to learn. And hopefully you have a really great relationship with your preceptor where you can still, get the best out of the experience that you can. Before I started my consolidation, I went through my CEO from previous placements, and I made a list of my strengths and weaknesses and what I really wanted to work on as a nurse and throughout consolidation so that I had a good starting point of kind of where I was at as I was going into consolidation. I knew what I needed to work on, so I found that was really helpful. The way that I dealt with stress was by a couple different things. So I saw a counselor pretty frequently that just kind of helped me have someone to talk to and deal with all the anxieties and help me kind of logic my way through the craziness of consolidation and finishing fourth year. I also journaled almost every night before bed to kind of like get all of my thoughts out. I started painting just after I finished consolidation, and I really wish I would have started it throughout fourth year because I found it was a really great stress reliever. And I wish I kind of would have had that outlet throughout my consolidation experience. So if you're an active person or an artsy person, take a couple hours of the week just for yourself and like have that outlet and don't feel selfish about it because it's gonna help you in the long run to feel better about things. The way that I did schoolwork was typically, I feel like most of you will be working 2 days and 2 nights. That's the schedule that I was on, and then you have 5 days off. So on my second night, I would get off in the morning and then I would go to sleep and I would try to wake up around like 12 or 1 p.m. and then just have a really chill day that day. And then the next day would be the good 4 days that you have off, and that's when I would try to attack my schoolwork. I found I wasn't really great with working from home, so I would either go to Algonquin or I would go to the library at uOttawa, and that's when I would try to do most of my schoolwork and readings. And yeah, that's just kind of what worked for me. One of the biggest hurdles I found through consolidation was I would frequently compare myself to the other students, and I really stress so hard to not do that because everybody's experience is different and you're going to be different people. But if you really admire something that you see in another student that you're working with, ask them about it and be like, hey, how did you come to be so good at like this skill? And maybe they can help you to develop your skills. And I did that a couple times throughout my consolidation, and it helped me develop relationships with other nursing students. And I kind of realized like nobody's perfect. We're all going through different things, but we're in it together and you're never alone. And the last thing about consolidation I really wanted to stress is, again, just that you guys are never alone. Even if it's your last day of consolidation or if you're like 5 years into your nursing practice, you can ask for help and you don't have to feel guilty about that. Asking for help doesn't mean you're weak. It means you know when you need assistance and whenever you're overwhelmed. And that's a really good thing to know, so that you can work on that and so you know what your limits are and sorry, my cat just jumped up, and you'll know when you need to ask for help, and that's really valuable to know. So let's go into the NCLEX. So I wrote the NCLEX in, I think, mid-July, so I had a good amount of time to prepare for it. I really wanted to write the NCLEX in like May or June. It didn't end up happening for me because I was so busy with schoolwork and an actual job throughout consolidation that it was really difficult to set aside the time to really devote to studying. So that didn't end up happening for me. And I can stress, if you can go consolidation without working, please do it. I had to quit my job halfway through consolidation, and that was heartbreaking, but it's what I needed to do to focus on my career. So it was a sacrifice, but I'm glad that I did it. So for the NCLEX, I used videos called Hearst Review. And I swear all of the instructors in the video have Southern accents, and it helps you remember things better. I know it sounds crazy, but it sticks in your head. So essentially, it's a set of videos that it's a good like basic review of nursing. And with the videos, you also get PDF documents that you can print out that are fill in the blank. So as you're watching the video, you follow along through your documents and you fill in the blanks as you go, and then those become your study notes, and I found those were super helpful. So a typical day of studying would be me at the library. I would watch a video on Hearst, and then I would read through the video's topic in the chapter of my NCLEX book, and then I would just do a bunch of practice questions on uWorld. And I really liked uWorld as well because the rationale for the answers that they give were just super like easy to understand, and it really broke things down for you. Hearst also comes with a question bank, but I didn't find that it made as much sense as the uWorld questions. So I did a mix of both as well as the textbook. And then that probably took me about like 2 months to feel really good. And I also did my tests, so I would master one topic, and then the next time whenever I do another topic, I would have both of those topics in my uWorld test until I just kept adding topics into my uWorld test. I was eventually like doing all of the subjects. So I found that was great because you just learn a little bit at a time. And once you're like comfortable doing all those questions, you add another subject. So you're still reviewing as you're also learning new things. What else? So I wrote my NCLEX in July. And I just really want to stress that not everybody writes the NCLEX in 75 questions. I wrote in 91 questions. I had friends that wrote in like 95, 112. I had one friend write in like 200. And they all ended up passing. There will be a couple people that you hear of that don't pass, and it's honestly not a big deal. I work with a couple nurses that didn't pass their first time around, and they still ended up getting a job at Sick Kids, and you can get jobs other places even if you don't pass the first time. It's not a huge deal, but try to avoid it if you can, I guess. So that was how I did the NCLEX. And lastly is my job at Sick Kids. So I applied to Sick Kids in May, and I was really lucky. I got an interview with talent acquisition at Sick Kids in early June. So the way that Sick Kids does interviews is you send in your cover letter and your resume. And then if they like you, they'll either call you or interview. That they want to do an interview through talent acquisition, which is like just a main, I guess, like they'll ask you general questions. And I think the questions are all the same depending, like it doesn't matter what unit you're going to work on. They just want to make sure you're a good fit for the hospital. And then they send your answers to those questions along with your resume and cover letter to the unit. And then the unit will go through those and decide which of the applicants that they want to hire, they want to interview on the unit based on those answers. So I went in May for a job that started in July. I did really poorly in that interview. It only lasted 15 minutes and I was super nervous. I didn't practice saying the answers to my practice questions out loud. I did it all in my head. So when I was asked the questions out loud, I just blurted out the first thing that came to mind. I didn't take time to really think and give a thoughtful answer, and I think that was my biggest mistake. So I went back home, I started focusing more just like on studying for the NCLEX. And then as I was studying one day, I was just like going through job postings on the Sick Kids website. I decided to apply again. So I tweaked my cover letter and my resume. I applied again. I was lucky enough to get a second interview, again with talent acquisition. So I went over all of the questions that I did. I went over the hospital values, their vision statement, and just like everything that I could think of. I talked to a couple other people that did end up getting hired at Sick Kids in that first round and kind of see like how they answered and how it was different from the way that I answered. And then I had that interview. This time it was much longer. I took time to think and to really, I guess, like pace myself while I was answering so that I was giving like a clear, thoughtful answer. And I think that made a huge difference. And then I sent a follow up email. Always send a follow up email whenever you have an interview. I sent a follow up email to the talent acquisition person who interviewed me saying, like, thank you for your time. I really hope to hear from you soon. And then a couple days later, I got an email from the unit that they wanted to meet me. So we set up an interview time. I went back to Toronto. I interviewed on the unit, and the interview there was mostly talking about like how I deal with stress and how I deal with grief. I had a lot of good coping mechanisms in place that I learned throughout consolidation and throughout the summer, that I was able to say like, oh, like when I'm sad, this is what I do. When I'm stressed, this is what I do. I know the resources that are available and I'm not afraid to ask for them. And I don't want to do anything that's unsafe. And I I ask a lot of questions, and that was what they wanted to hear. They ended up giving me a job. I was very excited, and so now I'm here in Toronto. I love my job. I work in the oncology unit at Sick Kids. Kim can probably tell you, children's oncology is like a really special unit, and it's very close to my heart. So I'm super happy with where I work, but it is a heavy unit that not everybody can work on. So just keep that in mind as you're applying to things. But if you're passionate about it and you set up the right resources, you can do it. And don't be afraid to try something or to apply for a job you think is way out of reach, because you never know, you could surprise yourself. So lastly, I think I want to talk about the Health Force Ontario, or HFO, website. So they told us throughout our interview process at Sick Kids that we needed to apply through HFO as well as through the Sick Kids website to be interviewed and to get a job there. HFO wasn't set up very well this year, so I took the job in September, and I only got my HFO offer in like November, so I had to go on the website and accept it, even though I'd been working there for a few months. So I did that, and then HFO was great because it would list all the hospitals that are doing a new graduate program that you could sort by location as well as by just like area of interest. So if you wanted to do like cardiology, or if you wanted to do oncology or pediatrics, you could sort through it that way. So HFO is going to be a lot better set up for you guys graduating in 2019. So please use that and take that website, and it'll be a great advantage for you guys. Sorry, that was a little jumbled. Anyways, yeah, so thank you so much for listening. You guys are all going to be great. I know this is a crazy time of year, but you're in the home stretch and you guys are going to do awesome. So don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. And thanks so much for listening. Bye.